This is the early edition, a curated weekday guide to major news and developments over the past 24 hours. Curated by Veronica Galka and Elizabeth Jennings and read by an automated voice. Published October 13, 2025 on Just Security, an essential resource for those shaping a just and secure world. Here's today's news. Israel-Hamas war, hostage and prisoner releases. All 20 of the remaining living hostages in Gaza have returned to Israel this morning. They have been brought to the Re'im military facility in southern Israel to undergo initial medical screenings. Oren Lieberman reports for CNN. Buses carrying Palestinian prisoners released by Israel arrived in Ramallah in the West Bank today. These are the first of nearly 2,000 detained Palestinians expected to be freed in the coming hours. David M. Halbfinger, Aaron Boxerman, Natan Odenheimer, Isabel Kirshner, Adam Razgon, and David E. Sanger report for the New York Times. Israel has not included Marwan Barghouti, a popular and potentially unifying Palestinian leader, in the list of around 250 prisoners to be released from Israel. Senior Hamas official Musa Abu Marzouk told Al Jazeera that the group that Hamas insists on the release of Barghouti and other figures, and that it was in discussion with mediators. Lee Keith, Julia Frankel, and Jalal Boital report for AP News. Israel-Hamas war humanitarian response. The first aid truck since the ceasefire began arrived in Gaza yesterday. A spokesperson for the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said that supplies of cooking gas had entered Gaza for the first time since March. The easing of restrictions has allowed the agency to deliver medical and emergency supplies where they are most needed, OCHA added. BBC News reports. Israel-Hamas war political developments. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not travel to Egypt today for a summit on ending the war in Gaza due to the Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah, according to a statement from his office. This statement came following an announcement by Egypt's presidency and a White House official that Netanyahu would be attending. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas will be attending the summit. Wafa Sharafa, Sami Magdi, and Melanie Lidman report for AP News. Ayad Kurdi, Kevin Liptak, Tal Shalev, and Caitlin Collins report for CNN. Only by embracing the opportunities of this moment can we achieve our goal of ensuring that the horrors of recent years will never happen again, Trump told the Knesset today during his speech, adding that the long and painful nightmare is finally over. Two members of the Knesset held up signs that said, "Recognize Palestine," as Trump spoke, according to a Knesset spokesperson. As the two were escorted out of the room, other members of the Knesset began chanting, "Trump! Trump!" Trump was still speaking to the Knesset at time of writing, CNN reports, NBC News reports. Egyptian and Qatari mediators told Hamas leader Khalil al-Hayya that Trump's deal was his last chance to end the war, following al-Hayya's immediate reaction to refuse the deal, according to officials. The sources said that Turkey warned him that Turkey and Qatar would remove all diplomatic and political cover if Hamas did not agree to the deal. Jared Maslin and Summer Said reports for The Wall Street Journal. Fighting between Hamas security forces and armed members of the Dugmush family in Gaza City over the weekend killed at least 27 people. The Hamas-run Interior Ministry said that 8 Hamas members were killed in an armed assault by a militia. Medical sources said that 19 Dugmush clan members had been killed. Both sides accused the other of triggering the clashes. Hamas has recalled about 7,000 members of its security forces to assert control over areas of Gaza vacated by Israeli troops, according to sources. Rushdie Aboulouf reports for BBC News. Russia-Ukraine war. U.S. intelligence shared with Kyiv has enabled Ukraine's strikes on Russian energy assets, including oil refineries, far beyond the front line, according to Ukrainian sources and U.S. officials. Officials said that the United States has been helping Ukraine mount these long-range strikes for months in an attempt to weaken Russia's economy and force them to negotiate. Christopher Miller, Amy McKinnon, and Max Seddon report for the Financial Times. Trump said that he had spoken with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday on the phone about Ukraine obtaining long-range Tomahawk missiles. Trump told reporters during his flight to Israel that before he agrees, he might speak to Russia about that, in all fairness, because it would be a step up in the war. Megan Messerly reports for Politico. First Lady Melania Trump said on Friday that she has had an open channel of communication regarding the welfare of children with Russian President Vladimir Putin in the last 3 months. The First Lady claimed that 8 Ukrainian children had been reunited with their families in the past 24 hours due to the initiative, adding that both sides had agreed to cooperate with each other for the benefit of all the people involved. Sophia Kai and Diana Naradzi report for Politico. Other global developments. The Rapid Support Forces paramilitary has killed at least 57 people and wounded 43 others in a series of drone and artillery strikes on the besieged Sudanese city of El Fasher overnight into Saturday, according to local medics and aid groups. The Sudan Doctors Network Medical Advocacy Group said the attack targeted a shelter for displaced people and was a violation of international law. The RSF denied that civilians were killed as a result of its strikes. Pranav Bhaskar reports for the New York Times. Reuters reports. A spokesperson for Afghanistan's Taliban government yesterday claimed that Afghan forces had killed 58 Pakistani soldiers in retaliatory border operations overnight into Sunday. The Pakistani army disputed the figure, stating that 23 of its armed forces members had died and that 200 Taliban and affiliated terrorists have been neutralized. The Taliban have accused Pakistan of violating Afghan airspace and bombing a market in eastern Afghanistan last Thursday. Pakistan did not claim responsibility for the alleged assault. Carrie Davies, Stuart Lau, and Ethirajan Anbarasan report for BBC News. Riaz Khan reports for AP News. French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu late yesterday announced his new government 2 days after French President Emmanuel Macron reappointed Lecornu as France's prime minister on Friday. Lecornu resigned from the premiership last Monday after his coalition partners pushed back to his first attempt at forming a government last week. Giorgio Leali reports for Politico. Noemi Bisserb and Sam Schechner report for The Wall Street Journal. Qatar and other Arab states have expanded security cooperation with the Israeli military over the past 3 years, according to leaked U.S. documents. The documents show that in May 2024, senior Israeli and Arab military officials convened at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar to discuss the threat posed by Iran. Presentations reviewed by The Washington Post detail the creation of what the U.S. Army describes as the regional security construct, involving Israel, Qatar, Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. David Kenner reports. 5.7 million Haitians are facing a deteriorating food security situation, with 17% of Haiti's population suffering emergency levels of acute food insecurity. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC Hunger Watchdog, said in a report published on Friday. According to the IPC, the situation is expected to deteriorate in 2026, with 54% of Haiti's population face high levels of acute food insecurity. UN News reports. Reuters reports. Israel yesterday carried out airstrikes in southern Lebanon, killing 1 person and wounding 7 others, the Lebanese health ministry said. The Israeli military said it struck a place where machinery was stored for rebuilding Hezbollah infrastructure. AP News reports. U.S. immigration developments. A federal judge on Friday said the Trump administration had presented a totally inconsistent case to keep Kilmar Abrego Garcia in immigration detention. Since Uganda and Eswatini had refused to take Abrego, "We're getting to 3 strikes and you're out," the judge added. Ghana's foreign minister posted on social media on Friday that Ghana would also not take Abrego. The judge said she will decide soon whether Abrego should remain in custody while his challenge moves forward. Separately, the judge presiding over Abrego's criminal case on Friday set a hearing for November 3rd to take evidence on whether the charges should be dismissed. Josh Gerstein reports for Politico. Minho Kim reports for The New York Times. The Labor Department warned last week that the near-total cessation of the inflow of illegal aliens is threatening the stability of domestic food production and prices for U.S. customers, according to a document filed with the Federal Register. Unless the department acts immediately to provide a source of stable and lawful labor, this threat will grow. Lauren Kaori-Gurley reports for The Washington Post. The Homeland Security Department announced on Friday that it has awarded 10 construction contracts worth $4.5 billion to add 230 miles of wall along the southwest U.S. border. Reuters reports. U.S. Foreign Affairs. The U.S. military is moving forward with plans to build a facility in Idaho dedicated to training pilots from Qatar. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced on Friday. Hegseth's announcement drew a rebuke from far-right influencers, including Laura Loomer, who accused Qatar of funding Islamic terror organizations. Hegseth later on Friday posted what he called an important clarification on social media, stating that, to be clear, Qatar will not have their own base in the United States, nor anything like a base. Konstantin Toropin reports for AP News. Lillian Rizzo reports for CNBC. Venezuelan government officials offered the Trump administration a large stake in Venezuela's oil and other mineral wealth in order to end hostilities during months-long negotiations preceding the U.S. strikes, according to several sources. The sources stated that Venezuela offered to grant preferential contracts to U.S. businesses and terminate contracts with Chinese, Iranian, and Russian firms. The Trump administration last week cut off diplomacy with Venezuela, effectively killing the deal, the sources added. Anatoly Kurmanev, Julian E. Barnes, and Julie Turkwitz report for The New York Times. Trump announced on Friday that he would impose 100% tariffs on all Chinese products, adding that they would take effect on November 1st. Earlier on Friday, Trump said that he may cancel his planned meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping due to Beijing's sinister and hostile curbs on the exports of rare earth materials. A spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry said yesterday that threatening to impose high tariffs at every turn is not the right way to engage with China, and that Beijing will retaliate with corresponding measures. Anna Swanson reports for The New York Times. Phelim Keen reports for Politico. The UN Security Council met on Friday to discuss the United States' recent strikes on Venezuelan boats in the Caribbean. The 15 members of the Council held varying opinions on the strikes, with European and African countries avoiding direct denunciation of the Trump administration's policies. The United States will not waver in our actions to protect Americans from narco-terrorists, John Kelly, a political counsel with the U.S. mission to the UN, said. Farnaz Fasihi reports for The New York Times. Trump administration actions. The reductions in force have begun, Office of Management and Budget Director Russ Vought announced on Friday. Vought provided no further details on which federal workers would be fired or how many people had already been laid off. Senior OMB advisor Stephen Billy confirmed that RIF notices would be going out to at least 4,100 employees across several agencies, according to a court filing in a lawsuit filed by unions to stop the layoffs. Erie Sentner and Jennifer Schultes report for Politico. Josephine Walker and Emily Peck report for Axios. The Trump administration on Saturday rescinded layoffs of hundreds of scientists at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention who were terminated during the mass firings within CDC on Friday. A senior official said that the employees were sent incorrect notifications, which was fixed with a technical correction, adding that the terminations were mistaken and have been remedied. A CDC official told Politico that entire offices are being eliminated, including people in leadership roles. Apoorva Mandavilli and Cheryl Gay Stolberg report for the New York Times. Sophie Gardner and Lauren Brenzel report. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche were not given notice that federal prosecutors would indict New York Attorney General Letitia James for alleged bank fraud last Thursday, according to sources. The sources said the lack of communication was a result of the government shutdown, the rush to bring the indictment, and divisions between department leaders and the interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan. Devlin Barrett and Glenn Thrush report for the New York Times. Trump yesterday announced that he has appointed his longtime aide Dan Scavino as the White House Presidential Personnel Office. Scavino will remain the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, while being responsible for the selection and appointment of almost all positions in government, Trump posted on social media. Yan Zhuang reports for the New York Times. Sarah Fortinsky reports for The Hill. Trump also announced on Saturday that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth will use all available funds to get our troops paid on October 15th, adding, "I will not allow the Democrats to hold our military hostage with their dangerous government shutdown." About $8 billion is being redirected from accounts that fund military research and testing to pay the Army, according to two sources. Ben Johansson and Jennifer Schultes report for Politico. MIT on Friday rejected the Trump administration's offer for the school to receive special funding treatment in exchange for signing the administration's Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education. Fundamentally, the premise of the document is inconsistent with our core belief that scientific funding should be based on scientific merit alone, MIT President Sally Kornbluth said. Vimal Patel reports for the New York Times. U.S. domestic developments. Over 30 sitting federal judges told the New York Times that the Supreme Court's brief and opaque emergency orders in cases relating to the Trump administration have caused confusion in the lower courts about how to proceed with those matters. In response to a questionnaire, 47 out of 65 judges also said that the Supreme Court had been mishandling its emergency docket since Trump returned to office. Matthias Schwartz and Zach Montague report. Trump administration litigation. A federal appeals court on Saturday left in place the part of a lower court order bearing the deployment of federalized National Guard troops to the Chicago area. The appeals court temporarily reversed the other part of the lower court's order that blocked the White House from federalizing National Guard troops. Members of the National Guard do not need to return to their home states unless further ordered by a court to do so, the appellate court said in its brief order. Gregory Svirnovsky and Josh Gerstein report for Politico. Ernesto Londoño and Matthias Schwartz report for the New York Times. In case you missed it, last week on Just Security. The Anti-Corruption Tracker, Mapping the Erosion of Oversight and Accountability by Danny Shulkin, Amy Markopoulos, and Maya Neer. Attacks on Nature, Atrocities Against People, The Case for Environmental Harm as a 12th Crime Against Humanity by Layla Nadia Sadat. Thank you for listening to Just Security's early edition today, October 13th, 2025. If you enjoy listening, Just Security's analytic articles are also available in audio form on the justsecurity.org website. To stay up to date on Just Security's analysis of law, policy, and current events, go to justsecurity.org, subscribe to Just Security on Substack, and follow us on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, and Threads.